Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first of 3 town hall forums, live town hall forums for the Libertarian candidate for governor of the state of Indiana in this 2024 gubernatorial election, Donald Rainwater. He joins us for the next hour to answer from you Hoosiers out there watching, or the Hoosiers that have sent questions in over the last couple of weeks. We will be asking Mr. Rainwater a series of questions this evening, and then again we will be able to meet with him in September and October. So please be watching out for those second and third town hall forums as well. But to get straight into it, my name is Christopher H. Bilbrey, and I am one of the hosts of the Political Spotlight. Joining me up above is Brandon Rudd, and he's one of the other hosts on the Political Spotlight. We are producing and hosting this hour-long show with Don Rainwater. And so to get right into it, these questions have been sent in to us by Hoosiers, and we will rock and roll with that now. I think the first question is with Brandon.
All right. So our first question was submitted by Axel from Fort Branch. He says, I know Mr. Rainwater is pro-life. My question, though, is does he believe abortion should be illegal in the state of Indiana? I am pro-life while also believing it's not my right to choose if another should be allowed to get an abortion or not. So do you believe abortion should be illegal in the state of Indiana?
Well, first of all, let me say that as a pro-life libertarian, I believe in the non-aggression principle, and I believe that the non-aggression principle applies to anyone who is forcefully infringing on the rights of someone else, and that to me includes someone who cannot protect themselves, and that includes the unborn. So I believe that the law in Indiana is what the General Assembly has passed, and that any changes that should be made to that law should be made by the General Assembly or the courts accordingly.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right, very good. And just for the record, we will give you, you didn't have an opening statement, but we will give you a chance at the end to put out a closing statement and say anything else that you feel like you need to that we have not had a chance to cover during the questioning. The next question is from a supporter in Winchester, and this question is, Rainwater's property tax plan is great for homeowners. What is his plan to provide relief for rental owners, business properties, and ag, or to prevent counties from making up lost revenue from homeowners by raising assessments or rates on property that are classed as other than primary residence?
All right. Well, so first of all, that's probably 3 or 4 questions.
Yes, right.
When you break it down. But let me try to, I know we want to answer as many questions as we possibly can. So the first thing I'm going to do is say that if you go to rainwaterforindiana.com, go to the issues button, the very first issue at the top is reforming and reducing residential and agricultural property tax. And if you look at that, one of the things that you will see is that I've said that my plan is for all residential, long-term care, and agricultural land currently capped at 1% or 2% of assessed value would be capped at 1% of the purchase price of the property. Now, what that does for rental owners is it puts their residential property on the same level as a homeowner's residential property, because we know that a rental owner has to pass on the increases in property tax and increases in rent. That's the way it happens. So the way that we give renters the same consideration that we give homeowners, and the same goes for a rental owner or a business property or agricultural land, is that it's 1% of the purchase price of the property, period.
Okay.
That means no assessments.
Okay. So, and you have your plan for the property tax plan laid out at your website again, which is rainwaterforindiana.com. Okay. And for those individuals that are interested in checking out his plan for property tax, as well as all of his other information, you can find that link at the bottom of our screen. You can also find more information. You can go to that website to donate or to get a sign and to find out where else Rainwater will be throughout Indiana, and find out all of the plans for the campaign there at rainwaterforindiana.com. All right.
I noticed here that this question, I apologize, also asks about prevent counties from making up lost revenue.
Sure.
And so I do want to point out, we have very often talked about, and people have said that the property tax plan, how are you going to make up that money? And the reality is we need Hoosiers to do a little research on tax increment financing, because whenever your government decides to go ahead and gaslight you by saying that if they cut your property taxes, it would defund the police, or it would defund this, or whatever. That's just a crock of crap, to be honest with you folks. The reality is that the state of Indiana implemented tax increment financing several decades ago. It's been around for a long time. And what they do is local governments create an area that they call a tax increment financing, or TIF, district. And they calculate what the current property tax revenue is when they create that. And that money continues to go to the local government services that you're used to hearing about: the police, the fire, the schools. And by the way, it's just the capital budget for the schools. It's not the operational budget. When somebody tells you that cutting property taxes is going to hurt teacher pay, again, they're either gaslighting you or they just don't know any better. Because operational expenses for our public schools comes out of the general fund, not out of property taxes. But to get back to the tax increment financing, what we want you to know is that when they create these TIF districts, once they create it, any increase in your property taxes goes to this redevelopment commission that is created. The redevelopment commission gets the money and they can spend it any way they want. They can spend it on a fancy sports facility like Grand Park in Westfield. They can spend it on a huge entertainment auditorium like the Palladium in Carmel. They can spend it on mixed use retail and townhome developments, any number of things, just not on the things government's supposed to be spending tax dollars on. You see, all those things, and don't get me wrong, Grand Park is a beautiful, wonderful facility. Right. But what a lot of people don't know is that could have been done by a private developer with his private money, and taxpayers wouldn't have been on the hook for a dime. But that's not what local government wanted to do, because they wanted control. And so your property tax dollars and the constant increases that we see, in most cases, that money's not going to police and fire and school today. So my tax plan wouldn't take money away from fire and police and schools. It would take it away from the inappropriate economic development that your local governments are involved in that they shouldn't be doing.
Absolutely. You know, so many of us are having to tighten our belts and do without and change how we do things. And I don't think it's a bad thing to ask the local governments to do the same thing. Very good. All right, Brandon, moving on to question number 3.
Yeah, I'd just like to say I like the aspect of you bringing up cutting needless spending in relation to taxes. So that's good to hear. So our next question is from Amanda in Greencastle. I've been reading about this in the news lately too. So do you agree with completely changing the pathway for graduation or just expanding and creating a new one?
So I'm going to answer this question in a way that may not be very popular with people until they stop and really consider what I'm going to say. I don't think the state of Indiana should be determining graduation requirements for students in the state of Indiana. I believe that graduation requirements should be determined by the local school districts, by the local schools themselves, by the parents and the children. One of the things I keep hearing is that our state universities are concerned that these new graduation requirements don't meet their admission requirements. And the first thing that came to my mind was this. It is not the government's job to make sure that my son or daughter has the academic standards they need to get into the college of their choice. That is the job of the parent and the student. The government shouldn't be dictating what the minimum requirement is for graduation. Now, a lot of people aren't going to agree with that. I know Jennifer McCormick won't. But I'm here to tell you that we have abdicated too much parental responsibility to government mandate. And folks, if I don't want the government telling me I have to wear a mask, if I don't want the government telling me that I have to get a vaccine, I shouldn't want the government telling my child what classes they have to take in high school to graduate. Now, that may seem odd because we've spent so long letting government play Simon Says and Mother May I with us. But the reality is we need more school options, more school competition, more school innovation. Every child is unique. Every child is different. And this idea that the members of the Indiana General Assembly are qualified to decide what children need to do to graduate high school just blows my mind. It just doesn't make any sense. We need to decentralize education in the state of Indiana, get it out of the hands of our state government and back down at the local level. That's my answer for that question.
All right, excellent.
And if you don't like the graduation requirements for your school, you should be able, through universal school choice, to send your child to a different school. Plain and simple.
Absolutely. And I know that's definitely a major concern for a lot of Hoosiers right now. That's been a big issue for the last several years.
Absolutely. Well, you know, when we supposedly put over 50% of our state budget into public education and then turn around and they tell us that 20% of our third graders can't read, there's a problem. And the answer isn't let's throw more money down the toilet. It's time to get rid of the toilet and get a good, solid education system here in the state of Indiana. It blows my mind that, both of my opponents feel that the answer to fixing education is throwing more money at it.
Yeah.
And I don't care whether it's education or the roads or any other aspect of state and local government. They don't need another dollar. What they need is to learn how to spend the dollar they have the right way.
It's really shocking. Every day I wake up and remember that we are in a supermajority conservative Republican state because of that very issue. The amount of money we throw at literally everything and continue to demand for more money. So I absolutely agree.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm going to hijack the conversation one more time here real quick. And there's two things that I want to point out. First of all, one of my opponents is fond of saying that fiscal conservatism is the government not spending more money than it takes in. Well, that leaves a big gaping hole in the concept of fiscal conservative, because if you can figure out how to keep taking more and more and more and more in, you can keep spending more and more and more, which is exactly what our state government is doing. If you look at the last two biennial budgets, you'll see that in 2023, at the beginning of 2023, we had a $4.5 billion surplus. They gave back to Hoosiers about $950 million of that $4.5 billion, and they spent the rest of it. And then they increased the future state budgets, the budget for 24 and 25. They kicked it up so that they spend every dollar that they project that they're going to bring in. So instead of giving us our money back because they were bringing in too much, right? Because Calvin Coolidge said that spending more money than you need or collecting more in taxes than you need to do your job is legalized robbery. So instead of giving the money back to the citizens, they figured out how to spend more so that there won't be that money to give back. And that's just wrong, because real conservative fiscal policy is we don't collect more in taxes than we need to do our necessary functions. And we need to teach our legislators and our governor the difference between the word need and want, because they do have different definitions in the dictionary, and we don't seem to have a government that understands the difference.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Very true. All right, moving on to question number 4, and this question is coming from someone who is a veteran. Matt, thank you for your service, Matt, wherever you are. This question says, I'm a veteran and I voted for Rainwater in the last election. I want to know how Rainwater would deal with the rising gas prices and gas tax increase. The state income tax went down this year, but the gas prices are going up due to the gas tax. How would Rainwater combat the issue for Hoosiers who drive long distances for work?
So, Matt, you and I have several things in common. We're both military veterans. I was an 8-year veteran of the United States Navy. And for those of you who don't know, Navy is an acronym that stands for Never Again Volunteer Yourself. I am also a Rainwater voter from 2020. I voted for myself. So, Matt, you and I have a lot in common. We also are concerned about rising gasoline prices. And one of the causes of that, which is our ever rising gasoline tax. What a lot of folks in Indiana are unaware of is that we don't have one gasoline tax in the state of Indiana. We have two. We have a gasoline use tax or sales tax, which is 7% of the average statewide cost of gasoline for the previous month. So in August of 2024, as we speak, our gasoline use tax is 20.3 cents per gallon. Now, on top of that, and I say that for a reason, on top of the sales tax that you pay to the state of Indiana, you also pay a currently 35-cent excise tax. Now, I personally don't believe that anybody should pay two taxes on the same product ever. So it is my plan to abolish. I want to go to the General Assembly and say, you guys should be ashamed of yourselves. You should be embarrassed that you are doing this to your neighbors, your family, your friends, the people you go to church with. You should be ashamed. If I were a member of the General Assembly who had voted for the gasoline excise tax in 2017 to be raised 10 cents per gallon like it was, and then indexed for inflation. And what that means is the General Assembly back in 2017 voted to have it go up a penny a year minimum based on inflation so that they would never have to vote on it again. Now, to me, that's cowardice. And by the way, I believe that while Senator Braun was a state representative in 2017, he voted for that gasoline excise tax to be increased. And again, I don't consider that a very fiscally conservative thing to do.
No.
So I will go to the General Assembly and say, we need to abolish the gasoline excise tax. We don't need, here's the thing, folks, and they're going to go, but the roads, first of all, the roads suck now. And it's not because we don't have enough money to fix them. It's because our state government doesn't do an appropriate job of managing the road work. These are projects that need to be planned out. They need to be budgeted, and there needs to be a budget and an end date. And somebody needs to be holding these projects accountable. And the vendors who are delivering these projects need to be held accountable to do this stuff on time and on budget. And the other thing that I want you to consider is this. How many times have you driven down a road that was recently repaired only to realize that the repair doesn't last more than 6 to 8 months? Folks, there's a concept called planned obsolescence. And if my living is dependent upon having roads to fix, I'm going to fix them in a way that you're going to need me to come back and fix them again very soon.
Absolutely.
That's not in the taxpayer's best interest. we need to figure out how to fix some of this. Because, folks, you earned your money. You need your money.
Yeah.
And you should not be paying for endless road repairs just so we can keep paying these contractors. It just doesn't make sense. There's got to be a better way. And one of the ways that you force government to do better is by taking away their ability to just throw endless amounts of money at stuff. It's just common sense.
Yeah. That seems to be one of the major issues lacking with a lot in the public service profession.
Yeah, you get me fired up. I've been driving through construction every day for the same project for months now, and nobody's working on it.
Right. Well, and I asked that question. Here a few days ago, a group of veterans invited me to speak, and I asked them. I said, "How many of you drove here today? How many of you drove past the state flower, the construction cone? How many of you drove past a construction site and there was nobody there?"
Right.
And this was the middle of a workday.
Yeah.
And there were like tons of hands up. This is a problem.
Right.
And we know it's a problem. We complain about it constantly. But then once again, we let our government gaslight us into believing the problem is that we haven't been fleeced of enough of our income to resolve the problem, and they need more money from us. And folks, that is not the answer to the problem. If you are so uncreative that the only way you can solve a problem is to throw more money at it, you're the problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
That's like the old joke that says if we could get the people in the construction company that lay the cones and do the flags, if we could get those people to actually work the machines, the road work would get done a lot faster because the people that can put the cones out seem to do a fantastic job. Meanwhile, you drive by and all the machinery is just sitting there with nobody around.
Right.
So yeah, I definitely understand that. Plus, I live in Delaware County, so we deal with a lot of road issues up here. Very good. Moving on to the next question. I believe is that you, Brandon?
Yep,
is it your turn?
Yep, I got that one. Our next question is from Ashley from Evansville. She says, "Is there anything that Donald Rainwater would be able to do about our energy companies? The IURC seems to let Centerpoint in the Evansville area raise their rates whenever they want. Most Evansville residents cannot afford their bills, and it seems that our area cannot get Indiana to listen to us and fix this."
So, first of all, let's establish that we have a problem in Indiana with a lack of lobbyists. And you're probably thinking, what do you mean a lack of lobbyists? Well, the thing is that companies, corporations in Indiana, all have hired lobbyists to go in and influence our legislators. Unfortunately, the 6.7 million Hoosiers that live here and pay taxes don't seem to have any lobbyists working for them in the Indiana General Assembly. Folks, that's your governor's job. Teddy Roosevelt said that the presidency was a bully pulpit. Now, I believe that the governor's office, the governorship, is a bully pulpit. And It is the governor's job to go to the legislature and say, you guys aren't representing your constituency. You're putting some corporate lobbyists' wants ahead of your constituents' needs. Right now, we don't have a governor that does that. And I can guarantee you that neither of my opponents are disposed to do that, because they're both influenced by lobbyists as well. All you got to do is go look at the money that they have raised for their campaigns, and you'll see whose interests they would serve if they were elected. Then you can go and look at the money I've raised and who I've raised money from, and you'll see whose interests I will serve as governor of the state of Indiana. That's you. You see, I'm an everyday Hoosier. I've raised money from everyday Hoosiers. I want to represent everyday Hoosiers in our state government. And until we get people in our state government who understand what it's like to have to pay rising energy costs, rising gasoline costs, our property taxes keep going up and up and up, making either our rental payment or our mortgage payment go up and up and up. Until we have people in our government, whether they be the governor or members of the General Assembly, who shop at Walmart and Kroger and see the price of groceries and go, 3 years ago, what I used to spend $150 on now costs me $325. This is crazy. Until we get people in our government who understand what that's like, it's not going to change. As long as we continue to elect millionaires and people who have been insulated from what the majority of citizens have to deal with on a daily basis, things aren't going to change. We need to have our citizens represented in our government. That's what our founders intended, and that's what I intend to do.
Absolutely. Very good. All right, moving on. Question number 6 is from Allison. I don't think I have an area. Allison asks, this is a question I'm very interested in. The LEAP project, which is a big concern right now in the state of Indiana. The LEAP project aims to threaten water availability. Will you, as governor, support more, or less projects like this one? How will you ensure future projects like this are more transparent? How can the current LEAP controversy be resolved?
Well, so again, that's a ton of different questions. I will try to answer this as quickly as I can, I guess. First of all, I do not support the LEAP project whatsoever. I do not support the Indiana Economic Development Corporation in its current, the way it currently functions, its current purpose. I want to make this, we'll get to the water issue. Well, let me say this. As a libertarian, I believe that the non-aggression principle applies to the idea that you should not take water that belongs to somebody else. And if you don't have enough water to do your project and you figure that taking it from another county's aquifer is acceptable, then you don't understand what infringing on someone else's rights means. I think that water rights are property rights, folks. And but the LEAP controversy goes much deeper than that. The reality is that the Indiana Economic Development Corporation is doing things government shouldn't do, plain and simple. And let me start by saying that the Indiana Economic Development Corporation was given a huge budget of about $1 billion at the same time that our state government said, oops, we made a $1 billion Medicaid math error. And we have a $1 billion shortfall in Medicaid. And since we do, we're going to take the money that we promised to parents who left their jobs to stay home and take care of their critically ill children. We're going to cancel that program. But we're going to give $1 billion to the Indiana Economic Development Corporation so they can give big tax incentives to big global corporations to come here and bring in all these new high-paying jobs. By the way, folks, we have the lowest unemployment rate we've had in decades in Indiana. But they're going to bring in all these new high-paying jobs. Where are they going to fill those jobs? They're going to fill them with people who are currently working for Hoosier small businesses who are going to lose employees to these bigger corporations because they can't compete on salary and they can't compete on benefits. The Indiana Economic Development Corporation, the governor's office, your supermajority is basically destroying small business in Indiana.
Yeah.
By bringing in these big global corporations. And if you look, the reality is we have fewer small business owners and individual franchisees in the state of Indiana today than we had 10 years ago. We are not growing the Indiana economy. We are shrinking it. They are intentionally, purposefully trying to get more people to work for fewer corporations because it's easier to manage and control things like single payer health care, knowing how much money you're making so they can control making sure you're paying all your taxes if you're working for these larger corporations. They don't want you to work for yourself. They don't want you to be independent. They don't want you to follow the Thomas Jefferson model and declare your independence. They want you to continue to play Simon Says and Mother May I with them and do as you're told and smile while they take the money out of your pocket. And folks, it needs to stop. I do not support government doing projects that private investors should be doing. I'm all for things like Grand Park. I think if the LEAP project were 100% privately funded and privately managed, it would be a great idea.
Sure.
My problem is not with the project. My problem is with government's involvement. Government and taxpayer dollars should not be engaged in economic development especially when we see it taking away from local police, local fire, local schools, from other things that government should be doing, like they make a promise with Medicaid to help these families. They should keep that promise. And those who want to execute the LEAP project should be pulling that money out of their own pocket. That's my opinion.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a that's a mess, and the Indiana Economic Development Corporation is something that definitely needs to be dealt with. It's
Absolutely. It should be the Indiana Economic Development Corporation should be working to create an equal playing field for all small businesses, entrepreneurial endeavors, franchisees in the state of Indiana, not giving huge 35 or 50-year sales tax exemptions to giant corporations, while Indiana's small business owners and family farmers are closing their doors and packing it up and saying, I can't do it, because the regulations and the taxation on the small guy is overbearing. And the people who could afford to pay taxes, and I know that sounds, I know somebody's going to go, oh, he sounds like a Democrat, but that's not.
right.
Because what I want is the small business owner to get the same chance as the big guy gets.
Absolutely. Very good. Moving on, question number 7, Brandon.
Yeah, this one was sent in by someone. Said they put their name as Fox. What is your?
It wouldn't be a libertarian event without
a Fox.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, what is your message to voters who have been Democrat or Republican their whole life up until now, but are considering making a change? That's a good question.
Well, first of all, I have used this. I don't know if Chris, if we've used this on your show before, but I've used this analogy before. I'm a huge Pacer fan. I'm a huge Colts fan. I have Colts memorabilia. I have shirts and hats, and I've got IU hats and IU shirts. And, I love to root for my sports teams. But just because I'm a fan of the Indianapolis Colts, Jim Irsay has never called me and asked me to stand on the sidelines on game day in uniform and be ready to play. He's never cut me a check and said, here's your salary for being an Indianapolis Colt. I'm not a member of the Indianapolis Colts. I'm a fan. I want them to win. I feel better when they win. I'm happy when they win. Most voters in the state of Indiana are not Republicans or Democrats. If you don't pay dues and vote at their convention as a delegate, you are an independent voter, and you have the unalienable right to cast your vote for whomever you believe best will represent you in government. So if you're considering changing how you vote, I want to encourage you to, first of all, embrace your independence. Because I'm a libertarian, because obviously I pay dues to the Libertarian Party and I'm running for governor as a libertarian.
Sure.
But before I got involved in running for office, I was just an independent voter. And You had to earn my vote. I didn't feel like I owed you my vote because you were an R or an L or a D. You had to earn my vote. And folks, if you're watching this evening or later, if you're watching it on playback, I think it's just really, really important for us to all remember that if someone has to use fear mongering to manipulate and gaslight you into voting a certain way, they're evil.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. And I'm not going to point fingers. I'm just going to tell you that if somebody has to tell you that casting your vote for the candidate that you believe in will cause a candidate you don't want to get elected, they're gaslighting you.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. If you vote for one candidate that you don't believe represents you because you're afraid of another candidate who doesn't represent you, you lose either way. The only way we win is to break free from the oppression of the people who have taken control of the $22 billion a year huge windfall budget that is the state of Indiana government. And they will keep taking more of your money and spending more of your money and telling you that the other guy is evil and worse and awful, and that if you vote for somebody who actually believes in doing smaller government and cutting that budget, oh no. Folks, it's all about the money to them. And I'm here to tell you, I will tell you right now that I have an agenda for that $22 billion a year. I want to give it as much of it back to you as I can possibly figure out how to squeeze out of state government. That's the God's honest truth. And if you think you're getting your money's worth out of the Indiana state government, I'm probably not your guy. You should probably vote for the R or the D. But if you think that your money is more important to you and that you're not getting your dollar's worth out of your state government, then I am your guy. And you need to vote for me. And I think there are enough of us among the 3 million registered voters that if everybody who actually believed that their money is more important to them than it should be to their state government voted for me, I'd win.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's very important to state, I heard someone say this a while back. You might not agree. You're not going to agree with 100% of what Donald Rainwater says. You shouldn't agree with 100% of what either one of his opponents say. But if you're unhappy with what's currently happening in Indiana government right now, and you think you're getting 5% from them or less, maybe 10%, 3%, 2% of what you want from that government, if Rainwater can give you 20%, if he can give you 15% more than what you're getting from them now, just in overall happiness with government, then that has to be your choice. I've never understood people that don't think like that. I'm not happy with what's going on right now. And the other side, both sides are just more of the same. And we have someone who's speaking common sense to me. even if I disagree with some aspects of what he says, if he can give me more than what I'm getting from anyone currently, to me, that's just common sense. But yeah, I very much agree. I think that's a great answer. We are just coming up here on about 10 minutes till the end. We've got maybe another question or two. The next question is, it doesn't look like someone has listed a name, but much of what you have proposed or that you have talked about in other online events or when you've been touring around Indiana, much of what you proposed requires the legislature to act. How do you plan to drive policy change from the governor's desk?
That's a great question. And I think that, first of all, I've answered part of that earlier when I talked a little bit about the idea of the bully pulpit, right? For example, in the state of Indiana, the governor has the opportunity to present to the state legislature a budget proposal. Here's the budget I propose. Now, if they choose to go their own way, guess what? I, as governor, can take my proposal and what they propose, and I can go to the media. I can go do a press conference, if you will. I can pull out the PowerPoint like Ross Perot did back in the 90s and say, let me show you what I proposed. Let me show you what they proposed. Let me tell you why what they're proposing is not good for you and why what I propose is good for you. And if you like my proposal better than theirs, I suggest you get on the phone and you call your representative. And if that doesn't do any good, we're going to throw a pizza party down here at the State House. And we're going to invite 6.7 million Hoosiers to come on down to the State House. And let's stand out here on the front steps and see if the guys and the ladies in the chambers can hear us chant. And I look, the reality is, folks, you need an advocate in state government. Right now, your legislators don't have anybody who has their back. If they go against the Republican Party or the Democrat Party, they get ostracized. Just go ask Kurt Knisley and John Jacob what that's like. Because those two men stood up against the current malfeasance in our state government, and they were primaried out. They were gerrymandered and primaried out. And folks, the reality is they can't gerrymander and primary out your governor if he's a libertarian. That's all there is to it. You want to teach the supermajority a lesson about conservative fiscal values, about governing of the people, by the people, and for the people? Put Donald Rainwater in the governor's office, because I'll go down there and the first thing I'll do is try to create a collaborative environment with the legislature and find people who believe like I believe and want to do the right thing. And if we can't get enough of us together to start making a difference in the legislature, then we'll have a big pizza party out on the south lawn of 200 West Washington Street, and we'll invite 6.7 million of my closest friends.
Absolutely.
You know I'll do it.
Absolutely.
You know I'll do it.
Yes.
Because
100%.
see, my party would not be upset with me. See, I don't have to worry about I don't want to upset the apple cart. I don't want to
Yeah,
upset the party. The donors, they
yeah,
could get. How many times have we heard that, right?
yeah,
Oh, the big donors are really upset
yeah,
because this happened or that happened. You know what? You get a libertarian governor. I don't have any big donors, folks. All I've got is you. That's why I don't have $1
yeah,
million or $10 million in
right.
my campaign fund right now. We celebrated when I got the $100,000
Yeah,
to qualify for the Fox 59 CBS 4 debate, which we still haven't heard back from them yet. They need to let us know that
wow.
they're going to include us, but they haven't. Well, I think they're still trying to figure out a way to exclude us. I hope not, but you never know. But the reality is, folks, the way we make the legislature act is by giving them something to act on.
Yeah,
If the governor is just in lockstep with the status quo, nothing happens. And the way that we get a governor that represents you is for you to support me. So I know we're getting short on time, so I'm going to make a real quick fundraising appeal.
absolutely.
I know nobody likes to hear me do this, but I'm going to tell you that over the last week, we've probably spent about $30,000 on advertising, radio ads, billboards, but we need a lot more.
Yes.
And again, I'm just going to be honest with you folks. We need to raise another 100,000, 200,000. Every time I go to a restaurant with my family and the server comes up and says, "Sir, do you need anything else?" I go, "Yeah, $1 million." My wife's so sick of hearing that she can't hardly stand it. But the reality is for us to get our message out to 3 million voters,
Yeah,
I need you to go to rainwaterforindiana.com. There's 2 donate buttons. One's a credit and debit button. The other is for PayPal. We need your support because we cannot do this without the money to buy the radio ads, to buy more billboards. And every time we spend money, we need to make sure that we raise more. So please, if what I'm talking about to you this evening makes sense, if you want a governor who will advocate for you, not corporations, not special interest groups, not the State Teachers Association, but you, for you, your children, your grandchildren, folks, I need your support and I need your vote November 5th. Thank you.
absolutely. Fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking with Libertarian Candidate for Governor of the State of Indiana, our good friend, Donald Rainwater. This was a great event. We have 2 more of these live town hall forums. The next will be at 7 p.m. Eastern on Thursday, September 12th, 2024. The last one will be 7 p.m. on Thursday, October 17th, 2024. So you've got 2 more of these events to get questions in. There were some good questions left in the comments. We will take those questions, and if we did not get to your questions this evening, we will put those in the next 2 forums. So please tune in to those events. Please share this show, share this episode out to everyone that you know in the state of Indiana. We need to get the word out. and he's made the pitch for donations. I'm going to ask you, we have put a link in the description of this YouTube video where you can click directly on that link and it will take you to his donation. Please give what you can, $1, $2, $5, $10, $100, $1,000, whatever you can give, it will help. And we are very supportive of the Rainwater cause here. I think that it's a cause that is really a cause for all of us. So thank you, Don, for talking with us. Brandon, do you have any last moment words? I think he might have paused out.
I was just going to say, someone give him that $1 million so his wife doesn't have to hear that anymore.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Save a marriage. Give him that $1 million.
Come on, guys. $1 million.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming on and talking with us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, this Rainwater Town Hall event has been produced and hosted by the Political Spotlight. We are a political commentary program that is live Sunday through Thursday here on YouTube at 9 p.m. Eastern. So you can check us out if you want to hear political commentary. And until next time, we will see you guys then. You guys have a wonderful evening, rest of the week. And God bless each and every one of you. And we will look forward to seeing you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you so much.